Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Off from the gun we go. Our riders are kicking away from the start line, and as you can see, this is where our riders settle into the pace. Yeah, Mr. X100, he's got the firepower. Can he keep in with the mix? He pushes down the right-hand side. Just watching Tim Cutler. We've seen Cutler leading this out. He's put in a couple of massive attacks and gone flying off the front. 18 seconds down on the pace set by this man, Yusuf Mirza. Mirza absolutely flying up here at the moment. Remember, he went up there some 6 seconds faster. And that was the gap he managed to put in by that incredible attack. Now look at the distance between them. Popovic going again. We said his last attack came in when he put out 11 watts per kilo. Here goes Jones over the top. Can Popovic respond? Jones took his time in closing down Popovic last time. Now he's put in the kick. He's got 4 seconds. And Popovic has got to respond. It's at 8 seconds. Ollie Jones looks to have timed it to perfection. He's on to the level section. He's got to come around the left-hand turn. He's got to make this his. I think it's going to be Ollie Jones. It is Ollie Jones. He's absolutely flying, and it's Ollie Jones who takes the first position here over the line. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. My name's Matt Payne. I'm going to be putting words to all of our race action today on qualifier race number 2. It is the second of the block that sees our riders trying to qualify for the prize money final at the end of June, with riders requiring 2 qualifying events to get through to the prize money finals. Up at stake, prizes in our competition for the individuals and our teams, and they're going to be battling it out over a 45-kilometer distance. Total elevation today is 904 meters, so not the hilliest course that we use on the Sunday Race Club. However, it breaks into 2 very distinct segments. We have the first section right the way through to 35.6k with only 167 meters of elevation. That also covers the first 6 and the start of our 7th segment, where we can get to see the split times and see how people are doing mid-race. However, the end section, 735 meters of ascent, come in the last 9k of riding. That is going to make a big difference, because having that height gain is going to really test the riders. Big team lineup today. Remember, these teams fighting it out. The UAE clan team were the team to beat last week, and they didn't disappoint, closing down attack after attack from the Yorkshire Pudding Express. But it was Ollie Jones who took the win last time. He's not here for the Danish Pavlova squad, and that means that the Yorkshire Pudding Express with Mitch Ferry, who took the win in the Tuesday tune-up Tuesday racing earlier on in the week, could be the man to take a victory. UAE clan team, though, Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic, SS, Yusuf Mirza, and Said Sarfazad, all capable of taking it on and trying to close down any attacks. Watch out for the NZ Bro team. They have got some very strong riders in there, with Kel Goodall coming in 5th on the Tuesday tune-up, and don't forget, of course, individuals in there as well. In Category 2, again, some really strong team representation here. Got to watch out, big riders to watch out for. UAE Falcons, they have Hassan Al-Rumethri. Hassan, first of our Category 2 riders in qualifying race number 1. Francis Alpino, 10th on Tuesday tune-up, riding for the team of the Climbers. Watch out for him. X-Pro, though, straight through next. Harvey Vargas, Alfonso Rigo, and Ketchup could be challenging. Good to see Try 65 in with the Sadia S team in here as well. And Salam Bike Shop being pushed up into Category 2 on these dynamic categories. Watch out for Moises Baltazar in there, because he was our leading Category 3 rider, now moving up to Category 2. In Category 3, well, it's great to see our regular teams of Team Italy, Warrior Men, CM Team, and the Renegades here today. Big names to watch out for. Fabio Hernandez flying in qualifying number 1 in Category 2. Now into Category 3, could well be the man to watch out for. Diego Molina of the CM team, but watch out for Diego Orega, who was second in qualifying one in last week's qualifying for the Renegade squad. They're going to be lined up on that start line, knowing that they are facing 45 kilometers of racing. They have got 904 on this course. Different to last week, we had a lot of roller coasters, lots of early hills to break this up. This is going to be quick from the gun, and the drafting is going to be really important. Stay in the draft, make sure you get in that group really early, and stick with it come hell or high water between there and the hills. The riders lining up, they know that they have got to push hard from the moment we go. Big race field here today, and it's going to go from the gun. If the riders do not get this start right, then they are going to be in trouble from the moment it goes. And with 40 seconds to go, riders will be tightening up those shoes, making sure they've got the gels ready, make sure they've got the fluids ready. I've got my bottle of OT Hydro Time stuck on the side, ready to lay down for this. It's going to be exciting because it's going to be really, really fast. Riders start to wind it up, coming into the go. The moment that this clock hits zero, the riders must be going and ready to hit big numbers. We're talking 10, 11 watts per kilo out from the gun to get off this line without going too far into that red zone. Go too far in the red, you're going to be in trouble because you will then blow your socks off and you're going to be left struggling to stay with the pack. 3, 2, 1, here we go. And away they go. So this is about getting that fast move off from the gun. You could just see how quick some of the riders are moving. The Category 1 riders in yellow, our Category 2 riders in green, our Category 3 riders in the blue jerseys. And they've got to get in this group quick. You can see just how fast those yellow jerseys of Category 1 riders move up towards the front. You can just see at the moment Osama Kafi, we're just trying to push his way up into this group. So Jose Ovedo, hell, he's made this split. Looks like Mitch Ferry right up here. Burke Govan in there as well. Burke was riding really strongly last week. He was the third placed rider in the Category 2 competition, but great to see that we've got Yusuf Mirza already up here. And looks like he's going to be taking this on from the front. It looks like he's got a really quick start in here. And Mirza was really strong on the climb last time. He'll want to be in the mix. Jacob Björklund in here as well. Now, Jacob, one of our Swedish riders, up into the mix, got up onto the front and keeping that pace high after that initial kick off the line. Looks like it's settling down to 5 to 6 watts per kilo in that leading group. And already we're seeing groups opening and splits occurring on the road. We've seen dot to dot. Left-hand side of the screen coming up into main screen here. We have our groups, and you can just see top right-hand side, those dots, they are in there. The gaps are starting to open. Michael Knudsen, one of our real fast men in the mix. Knudsen was third in the Tuesday tune-up race. What's Tuesday tune-up? It's our mini race series on a Tuesday afternoon, evening UAE time. It's afternoon European time, a little bit earlier in the morning when you're over in the States, to give you an indication. And that is kicking off. You can find all the details on MyWhoosh.com. Great race series to tune up through June for the races. And Knudsen was absolutely flying. That's taking the third place, a regular on the Sunday Race Club as well. Now, really interesting. A little bit further back, Hamid Kamsen just trying to close those gaps down. But Mitch Ferry, look at this, very quickly up to 7 watts per kilo. And at 7 watts per kilo, Ferry is already starting it to take it the attack. They used this tactic last week. We saw attack after attack from the Yorkshire Pudding Express, trying to weaken the UAE clan team and the rest of that race field, trying to knock them down, trying to make them burn energy. Gave the teammates chance to rest, gave those teammates chance to recover, whilst the leader was on the attack. In these early stages, critical to the racing. We're less than 2K covered at the moment, and already these riders are really pushing, trying to break this group down to something a little bit more manageable, easier to control. But some great rides by our Category 2 riders. Cristiano Kedup in here, looks like Moredo in here, already mixing it up with this group. Because we've got the return of Thomas Williams, one of our Category 1 riders. Williams was riding for the NZ Pro team last time round. Looks like he's pushed up here. Oliver Simmons in this mix as well. Hassan Sultan. And certainly looks to me like a real mix. If the riders can get into the groups as they go, it's going to make a big, big difference. Now, Yusuf Mirza for the UAE Kalante, Pablo Popovic in this mix as well, jumping onto the front. Just wanted to calm things down a little bit here, I think. So Mirza just pushing here, just wanting to get in with this leading group. So it is at the moment Mitch Ferry got a going through Popovich. Going to be Mirza in that group. Moreno has the Sultan just started to come in. We're going to get a better indication of the size of that leading group as they come through the first of our segments. Now, each of these segments are timed in their own right. The results are the time through that segment only. It is not the segment in a linear manner, so it's not first rider over the line. It is literally all about who goes through with that fastest time split for the segment. That is the critical time that counts. So you could have somebody in a slower group behind, sprinting up to a group in front who's faster, and he will actually have a quicker time than the group he's just joined because he's accelerated through to them. That is where you get the fastest time through there, but it's a great way for us to get an indication of who's going well at this stage. So our leading group on the road really starting to open the gaps. The gradient still 0%. The map box, you can see the satellite view of most of our riders group on the top right hand side of your screen. You can see we climbed 0 meters, and at the moment it's on a 0% gradient as well, and that is a real indicative of the course as we run out through the desert here. Very fast, very flat, very, very quick, and absolutely critical to stay in the draft. Our riders numbers top left hand side of your screen, you can see the watts figure going from black to green and back again. It's green when they are in the shelter of another rider, and as we come to the end of this 1 kilometer segment, this is where we're going to see who is moving quickly. Williams and Mirza very quickly on the way through. This can be used often to give us a little bit of a sprint time through. Great stretch of the legs. So it looks like Stefan van Eest, Mirza, Williams, Padians in this mix in the group. As these riders come through, it looks like that leading group of riders is going to be about 21 riders strong at the moment up at the front of the race. So about 21 riders at the front of the race. And you expect to see that to drop, to diminish as these riders continue on. Van Eest with the fastest time here. And then it's going to be Mirza, it's going to be Williams, Padians, Pithri, Safrazad in there. Interestingly, UAE clan team, not with their full representation here. And it looks to me like they may be going to struggle to dominate in the way that they have done here. The Pavlova squad, though, with Pithri, with Fink and Knudsen, well represented in here. And I've got to say, probably team name of the day is definitely the Belgian Waffles team. Definitely making me hungry already as we go through. Nice to get loads of reminders like that. That's going to be very, very hard work by the time we get to the end of the race. Never mind the riders needing to fuel up on the 45k race shoot. I'm going to need that too. So Stefan van Eest, regular on the Sunday Race Club, a rider who's capable of mixing it up on a final climb. He was seen at the second place, leading one of our early races that we covered here on the YouTube channel. And that I had the pleasure of putting words to the action on. He was in that second place for a long, long time. Then just got overtaken at the end, but a really spirited attack, going clear. And we're going to see if that's going to happen as we come on to the final slopes. At the moment, though, the riders coming through the desert is that Said Safrazad, the UAE clan team, pushing up on the wheels of his teammates at Popovich. And looks like Pablo Popovich in here. We got Mirza in this mix as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. SS very quiet at the moment, may well be just biding his time as he comes through. Good to see that we've got Christian Maglio in here. Maglio, one of our regular riders on the squad. And Cristiano Maglio riding for Team Italy B, one of our regular strong riders. Is Maglio going to be able to push his way in? He's got a really strong teammate in the shape of Oviedo as well as Moreno. Moreno 11th in Tune Up Tuesday. And it looks to me like Maglio right in the mix. He's got to hold these wheels, though, because he's mixed up with riders who are, in theory, going to be stronger in the race. The categories of the racing, they're not fixed. So unlike a number of other platforms where you find that the categories are at a set delineation between a set functional threshold performance, FTP, for example, or pace, then what you find with the MyWhoosh platform, these dynamic categories to give all of our riders some great racing against similar competitors. That means that it doesn't matter whether you are Yusuf, who is riding up at the front and battling it out for the race win, or you're like me, who'll be in a category 2 or potentially 3 race if we were jumping in this. Some very fast riders in these races. Then you've got somebody to race against. And in fact, even if you're on the recovery from an illness or an injury, then great way to get back in. Make sure you jump onto the platform, download the app on MyWhoosh.com. The app is free. It's free to jump on and ride. Just get your Turbo Trainer set up, download it onto your device. Something like an Apple phone, iPhone is ideal. And then you can mirror it up onto your Apple TV, onto your big screen, and watch in glorious Technicolor as you make your way out through the various worlds of MyWhoosh. Don't forget, of course, you can follow MyWhoosh on social media as well. It's MyWhoosh on Instagram, on Facebook. It's my_whoosh on Twitter as well. And of course, you can follow me as well. It's Matt Fixer Paint on Facebook, on Strava, and on MyWhoosh as well. Oddly enough, as if you want to catch up and head out and riding and plan on getting it out, whether or not you'll see me sprinting for checkpoints on Sprint 2 is another matter. Another big kick going through there as they come through segment 2. So this is the checkpoint done, and I think it's going to be Williams who's gone through in the fastest time that time. So it looks to me like Williams going through in front of Mercer. Then it's going to be Kel Girdle, followed by Mitch Ferry, Alan McGear going through. McGear's riding really strongly as well. The Irishman riding in the second category, right up in that mix there. It looks to me like Jacob Bjorkland doing a good ride as well. Stefan van Eist in there. As you can see, not a lot to choose between them. This early skirmish is not doing too much damage, but I think Mitch Ferry, the rider who is really starting to open things up at the front, sitting at a nice steady pace, not trying to push his way through this group. So at the moment, Mitch Ferry, our race leader, at 7.7k. He's got about 100, 120 meters lead to the group being led by Knudsen, Paradies, Van Elsten, Williams. Mitch Ferry doing a strong ride already. And again, this is part of that Yorkshire Pudding Express tactics. Pushing on, opening the gaps, making the teams behind work. Interestingly, it's Paradies who's trying to close the gap down. Jasper, who raced for the Abus Le Cole squad, right up trying to chase Knudsen sitting in there for the Danish Pavlova squad. He won't want the Pavlovas beaten by the Puddings as they head in towards that final climb. It's going to be about pushing on a bit further back. You can see our chasing groups coming in currently at 6.8, so going to be a couple of 100 meters into the end of this checkpoint. Hitchens Sabri just going to lead in this group, so doing the work on the front of the group. Interested to see we've got a number of our third category riders in here. So a real mix of riders. The fastest time through here, a 1:16.81. So a fast time through that kilometer trap, and a little bit bumpy, as you can see the gradient here as we come out from this checkpoint, 2.3%. As the leader goes over the top that gap at the moment for Ferry back. It is only a matter of a few fractions of a second. Really, there's not a lot to make a difference. I don't think he's going to be able to hold this, but he is really motoring. He's about to hit our next segment as he comes in. So you can just see this group behind having the advantage and the strength in depth, trying to close down. So here on a Sunday Race Club, here on MyWhoosh, we're coming in to the third of our timed sections. As we come in towards the third of those segments, we have a lone leader in the shape of Mitch Ferry being chased by the leading pack. This contains our leading Category 1 riders. It contains 1 or 2 Category 2 riders who've managed to make the junction and stay in with that pack. However, we're not seeing a domination or concerted chases by any of the teams as we've seen in previous races, with the UAE clan team at the moment lacking a little bit of cohesion, maybe missing the presence of Mr. X100 to knit together the team. Yusuf Mirza seems to be the rider being left to do the work at the moment, who is closing it down. He's got Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic as teammates, but at the moment, Mitch Ferry of the Yorkshire Pudding Express is the rider who is opening these gaps up. And at the moment, me, Ferry and the Yorkshire Pudding Express are playing this very smartly indeed. A 10-second lead for Ferry means that his teammates in the shape of Phil Graves and Paul Odlin don't need to work, don't need to do anything. They can just sit there. However, Ferry making everybody else do the work, making everybody else stretch their legs, and looking to try and weaken the groups out. And it does mean all the other teams are going to profit from that as well, because the pressure really going to be on the chasers behind. Campbell Pithry goes very close there, but it's Thomas Williams who goes through that split, and he's going to have another fast time here. So the NZ Pro rider, Thomas Williams, making his way in and looking very, very strong indeed. So great to see that Thomas Williams looks so good at the moment for the top one, 26.71, going from the back of the pack to the front of the pack, not closing down our race leader, Mitch Ferry, with the gap. The Yorkshire Pudding Express rider opening the gap up. Ferry still holding third place overall through that segment, so you can see he didn't lose very much time at all, only losing time to Williams and Pithry through that segment. Not very much to give away either, 0.758 and 0.897, so just under 1 second. He gave away to two of the riders, went quicker than the rest of that pack. Behind, though, look at the real mix of teams we're seeing from the Belgian Waffles team, the UAE Clan team, Danish Pavlova, Abus Lacole, NZ Bro squad in there as well. Great to see that Alan McGurr is in here. The second category rider really mixing it up. So the riders at the moment chasing Mitch Ferry, looking good at the moment, but the gap is coming down to 6 seconds. Yusuf Mirza and Saeed Safrazad right up at the front here, closing the gap down.
So here we go. Kel Agudagiro just trying to close the gap. It looks to me like a bit of a mix here. No one team taking it on at the front again. Mirza Popovic and Safrazad now starting to push, starting to try and close that gap down to Ferry. And this is all about having the attack now. Mirza goes at 8 watts per kilo. It's a number of watts. So if you were to be able to kick out, if you weigh 100 kilograms, let's say, and you put out 800 watts, and you're doing 8 watts per kilo. If you weighed 50 kilos, you'd be doing 16 watts per kilo, and that's how it works. So essentially, it's literally your watts divided by your kilograms. It does pay to be powerful and light. It allows you to climb really well. It also means that you can accelerate well, and the systems within MyWhoosh are making sure that they adjust for that, really realistic in terms of how it rides when you are up against the clock, up against other riders, and the drafting, well, really does pay to sit behind another rider at the moment. And Mitch Ferry 7 seconds clear of Yusuf Mirza and Pablo Popovic, the two riders trying to come across. Teammates on the UAE Clan team. 1 second behind is Knudsen coming from the Danish Pavlova squad. He just moves up on the left-hand side of your screen there. So Knudsen with the white socks and white helmet just tucks in at the side there of Popovic, working well. Popovic with the blue cap on there with the gold socks, and then with the black socks and the white cap, that is Yusuf Mirza. We can just see Mirza here trying to close down Ferry. That gap still 8 seconds. Looks a little bit closer because we're going uphill. But again, Yusuf Mirza coming to the end of kilometre 12, going into kilometre 13. So we're going to complete 13 kilometres here. And looks like he's absolutely flying at the moment. Mitch Ferry coming into the end of this checkpoint. So at 13 kilometres, it's the end of checkpoint number 4 as we come in underneath the arches here. And you can see that gap really has come down with that bunch accelerated up. I think Williams could close him down and actually make contact just as they come out from the far side here. So going to be a quick kick by Thomas Williams of the NZ Bro squad. And that NZ Bro squad, Williams, who was 10th in Q1, and he's mixing it up with that leading group right till the end, looking good. So at the moment, Thomas Williams of the Enzebro team ahead of Jasper Paradis from the Avis at Lecole. His teammate, Williams' teammate, Gunnar Girdle in second place in the Enzebro squad here could be pushing along very nicely indeed. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, the NZ squad have got 3 riders riding, but the Danish Pavlova squad looking good at the moment with P3, Vink and Knudsen all up in the top 10 of that segment. Interestingly, you can just see that Mirza Popovic, as well as Ferry dropping down through the group. They're still Ferry on the front here, doing the work on the front. And you can just see that push by Williams to close him down to get a good time through the sprint didn't translate into getting onto the wheel of Ferry. I'm not sure if I wasn't Williams, I'd have pushed on to try and get into Ferry's heels, get into his wheels, and then be able to work with Ferry just to try and make everybody else work behind. The gap has opened back up, and Paradis, Popovic, Knudsen, Girdle and Co are all in one big chasing pack behind Mitch Ferry. Mitch obviously able to look around as well by using his keyboard. He can take a look back. He'll have to take a long look back to see our next group. Hitchens Sabri at the moment, the second category, a rider just pushing on to the 11.5 kilometer mark. These data-rich screens showing us exactly how hard these riders are working. Very similar heart rates between Ferry and Sabri. If you look at the comparison side by side, 150 beats per minute for Ferry, 154 by Sabri. If we look at it in detail, now putting a kick in, using the draft as he comes through that group, getting a little bit of an advantage to push in and through to get into that pack. When you do get to a group, it pays not to just sit on the back of them. You want to move up to the front of the group and to be able to roll around at the front of the group. That's where you're going to be able to make sure you're not dropped off the back. The moment you get distanced off the back, you've got to start all over again. You see Sabri at least has targets in front on the right of your screen. On the left of your screen, Mitch Ferry doing the work all on his own, continuing to push at the moment, and certainly looking good. As we see Mitch Ferry's about to go hit the next segment. Knudsen 4 seconds behind. So a real interesting race so far. No one team are really controlling the chase behind. Michael Knudsen just pushing as they come into this segment. Knudsen has Ferry in his sights as they come up this slope. So here we go. This group coming together again, and interesting to see. We're just getting a little bit of a split at the top of this rise here. I'm just coasting over the top here, and looks like Yusuf Mirza and Saeed Safrazad have got to push on here. The squad from the UAE clan team usually very alert to these little gaps that open up. Once these breaks open, you've then got to work really hard to close them down. You see top right-hand side of your screen, we've covered 91 metres of ascent so far, so we're starting to kick the ascent in, but it's not clocking up at a phenomenal rate at the moment. The leaders at the moment, Knudsen, Ferry and Vink, and they've got the gap to Popovic and Simmons, Williams and Mirza and Co. And these leaders now have a little bit more strength in depth because it was Ferry on his own. Now he's got Vink and Knudsen. They're going to want to push on here, and this is good. Vink and Knudsen, both riding for the Danish Pavlova squad, are going to want to work hard here, but behind you can just see the riders sort of trying to close this down. Yusuf Mirza, 11 watts per kilo here, just pushing his way in. I think he's going to take away the fastest rider through that split. Let's take a little bit of a look. Oh, he hasn't. And that's really interesting. So Michael Knudsen, Michael Vink, both of the Danish Pavlova squad came through there, and they were a second quicker than Mirza. Ferry, who got caught on that segment by Knudsen and by Vink, dropping into 4th place. But what that shows you is that Knudsen and Vink are on a roll here. They are pushing on. They've got Mitch Ferry for company, and Mirza, Williams, Van SP3, going to have to stop but jumping just for the sprints. They're going to need to put in a concerted effort, because when we go in and through our next segment, it is longer. This is the King of the Desert segment. It kicks off at 20k. and it's going to be a 10-kilometer segment. It's the penultimate segment, with the final segment coming in at 33 to 43 kilometers, and that's in onto the mountains. However, at 16.6k, qualifier number 2. Remember, 2 out of our 3 qualifying events have to be written and verified to be in, with the chance of being into the finals, the prize money finals, at the end of each month on MyWhoosh. And when we say prize money, we mean big prize money. We're talking proper prizes, and that means that these riders are really motivated. Not only do they want to get a good workout to get that riding in, to familiarize themselves with the ride, but also to make sure that they get these courses dialed into their memory, because they don't know where we're heading for the finals. They don't know what the course is going to be, so they have to ride the courses to get them into their memory, to get them into that muscle memory, to know where you need to push, know where you need to attack. Remember, we're going to be going into that King of the Desert. It hits at 20k, so that's in about 3 kilometers time. It lasts 10k. This will give us a real good indication of that leading group as they come in and through. That group, it was at 25. We expect by the time we come in to the last of the segments in the desert, that's the King of the Desert segment, that we're going to have that group come right down in size, because we're going to be getting into the pointy end. At the moment, the leaders in through the segment, and it looks to me that in that leading group there's about 12 riders now left in contention in the front. So from our 25 riders initially, it's gone down to about 12 riders who are in with contention. So that is Knudsen, it's Vink, it's going to be Mercer, Ferry, Williams, Van Aest, Pithry, Gunnar Gjerdel, it's going to be Safrazad, it's going to be Simmons, Popovic, Paradians, going to be in the mix. Guyvan potentially should have been there, not going to make it. So Paradians, Popovic, Simmons, Safrazad, Gunnar Gjerdel, Pithry, Van Ace, Williams, Ferry, Mercer, Vink, and Nussen. They are the contenders up at the front. And of those riders, all of them are Category 1 riders. They are the riders who are going to be fighting it out, and it looks like they've got a real battle. In terms of Category 2, Burke Guyvan, Dexter Abello, along with Tom Harvey, Kegula, as well as Wolf and Kennup, all in that mix. Vado McGurr also in there. And that is going to be Tally McGurr doing a great race, staying up with that leading group, but now just starting to be distance as the pace picks up. And we continue to move through 42 kilometers per hour on this almost 1% slope here. And it doesn't sound a huge amount, but those every single 0.1% on the climb counts, just like in real life. Actually, it's no good just going in 1%, because it does make a difference as you tick your way up through the percentages. It does increase, it does make it harder, and there's a point when all riders start to struggle. It does depend on their build, on their physiology. So here side Safrazad, interesting to watch these tactics. I think the UAE clan team less controlling of this group this time around. They've let those gaps go a little bit more. We've got Knudsen and Ferry up at the front, and at the moment they are leading 2 riders. They have the gap on the chasers behind, being led by initially, Michael Vink made the cut, but not in there. So interesting to watch how he pushes on here. Pablo Popovic in the mix, so trying to keep the pace nice and high. Said Safrazad in there as well. And I think interesting to see how this team is performing without Mr. X100. Mr. X100, one of their real strong defining riders, really the team captain on the road, and the man who seems to knit them all together. They're doing a great job, though, with Pablo Popovic, Said Safrazad at the moment, pushing on Yusuf Mirza. Nobody afraid to take on the work. Nobody afraid to take on the chase. But at the moment, Knudsen and Ferry maybe sensing that there's a little bit of a lack of firepower, not quite maybe the same strength of the nominees. Every single man in the team really does make a difference. The more riders you have in the team, the stronger you're going to be. But Knudsen and Ferry opening the gap up and continuing to push a little bit further back. Interesting to see that we've got Hitch and Sabri working hard here. And this is what we mean about having groups of riders. The category's dynamic, so there's always someone to race against of a similar ability who's going to push you, going to improve. The aim being to get better and better as a rider. And so many riders are moving across from the virtual world into the real world. One man we've got to mention this week. A big congratulations to Jason Osborne. Jason, a regular on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club Decadic Quick Step rider, moving across and being signed by the one and only Alpecin Phoenix team. Yep, the team of Matthew van der Poel have signed the prodigious talent that is Jason Osborne. Jason Osborne, of course, don't forget a silver medalist in the Olympics at Tokyo for rowing. But a real cyclist at heart, and you can almost see the soul searching between his battles to be a rower and his battles to be a great bike rider. Well, I think, to be honest, he's both. I think he does an amazing job of mixing both sports, and now signing for Alpecin Phoenix. And make sure you give him a follow. Make sure you give the Alpecin Phoenix team a follow. One of our regular competitors making it in and across and taking on those pro steps, which is really good to see. We've seen it in numbers of riders over the years I've been involved in esports, e-cycling for a long time now, and great to see when our riders sort of move through those ranks. We see it in the women's race fields. We've just been watching the Tour of Britain, two great riders on there. The best female British rider actually finishing the UK, the Women's Tour of Britain, is a rider called Becky Story. Becky Story cut her teeth riding on the chain gangs on an event that had been responsible for running on esports. Amazing to see that she's doing so well. The best British finisher. Seen attacked by riders like Sammy Stewart, a rider who again rides on a women's chain gang, rides on esports, a firefighter as well as a rider, combining those things. And that's a great thing about platforms like MyWhoosh. You jump on, you can ride, you can race, you can get strong, and you can do that at a time scale that fits you. It doesn't have to be at any particular time. Unless, of course, you want to come and join one of the particular races like the Tuesdays or the Sunday Race Club. And if you want all the details of that, make sure you go on to www.mywhoosh.com for all of those details. Now, back to the racing. Ferry and Knudsen as we come up to the 22k mark, so not far off, only 1k off hitting half race distance. Mitch Ferry, Michael Knudsen leading this race 23 seconds back. This breakaway have gone on the offensive. They're doing a Sammy Stewart and going for it up at the front of the race, trying to open those gaps up. Ferry and Knudsen leading this out. Mercer, Pithry, Perdings, Fink, Safrazad, Popovic and co all behind. Teammates of Ferry and Knudsen, who we don't expect to be doing any kind of work. Well, Phil Grace, Paul Odlin, they're not going to do a stroke of work whilst they've got Mitch Ferry up there. Michael Nusser for the Danish Pavlova squad. Well, it does mean that Vink and Pithry can sit there. They don't need to do any work in that chasing group whatsoever. They're going to leave their teammate up there. They should be leaving it to everybody else to work. No point sitting on the front. No point chasing your teammate down. All you're doing is helping the other teams. And that's why it's so great with the team competition. Last time we were out in the desert, don't forget, we were out and racing. The team competition was very keenly fought in team last week's on qualifier number one. Well, the top team to bring it home, it was the UAE clan team with Pablo Popovic, Mr. X100, Yusuf Mirza and SS, the four qualifiers for the UAE clan team, taking the team win last week. The second place team was the Yorkshire Pudding Express with Mitch Ferry, who is right up in the mix. Phil Grace and Tim Cutler not riding this time around. Danish Pavlova with the third squad, with the X-Pro squad in fourth. And in fact, our first Category 2 team coming in and through. Great race by Team Italy B and the Renegades team in Category 3 as well, mixing it up in those team competitions. But will the UAE clan team be able to repeat this? They are up against it, and I think the squad they're going to be up against the most is the squad of Knudsen, Pithry and Vink, because it looks to me like Knudsen, well, we know he's on form, third at the Tune-Up Tuesdays. Vink, he was 12th in the qualifying last time round. P3 looking very strong, riding well in here. Just sort of watching the front of that group, and P3 at the moment sitting in that group that are now at 30 plus seconds behind our two leaders, Mitch Ferry and Michael Knudsen. So over half race distance done on Sunday on MyWhoosh, the Sunday Race Club. All the action on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. Make sure you give it a subscribe. Don't forget, as well as coverage of all of the Sunday race clubs, and I'm going to be on as many as I can. They're great to put words to the action to the events. We're also going to be bringing you lots of exclusive video content on there as well, and some great content on there. Lots of ways to improve your riding. So, for example, this week just seen a great new video come out, and great to see Jeff in action there. So make sure you catch up with Jeff. And this week, showing how to link in your training peaks and your Strava. We all love a great KOM, except for when it's out of the front door. So don't forget Strava KOMs, QOMs, how to link in your training from training peaks, whether you've got a workout planned, whether your coach has got a workout, whether you just want to record what you're doing. If, like me, you like to log all your miles in, makes you feel better knowing that you actually did do something this month, then it is key. Then link those together and get it all joined up together so it all comes up. The wonders of modern technology mean we don't just race with people from all over the world on MyWhoosh, but you can also get all of your platforms working together and all of that coaching and all that training. So Jeff with a great video there. Also insights into things like the UAE clan team, the UAE women's team as well. Some great riders on there. Now, a lot of them personally very, very nice people to ride with, to talk to chat with, and having seen a number of the riders sort of grow up through the peloton, through the sport, and been able to watch them in action, gotta say, great to see them developing and being part of such major teams with such big investment to look after them. Now, back to the racing. Ferry and Knudsen are leaders. Oliver Simmons are just putting a little bit of a kick on here, just trying to bring that gap back down again. The gap continuing to open up as Ferry and Knudsen set a pace. But remember, they are 2 against what is 10 riders behind. Our riders currently sitting at 25 kilometers. They are currently in the King of the Desert segment. They're halfway through. They've got another 5K to the end of this segment, which will give us an indication of how they're going. But Ferry and Knudsen really are opening that throttle, and at the moment 43 to 44 seconds between the riders. So remember, all of our 1K segments done, our final 2 segments, the King of the Desert and the King of the Mountain segments, real indicators of who is going well on those 2 10K segments. At the moment, Knudsen and Ferry, I think, could well be setting the fastest time at the moment. Just continuing to push, trying to keep those gaps open, trying to continue to make that distance count once we hit the hill. Remember, although the distance between the riders will come down, that time gap should stay the same. It will do if they 2 at the front haven't burned too much energy. However, the pack behind at the moment, they're all motoring, but at the moment you can just see that the riders doing the best shift at the minute. I think it's Mitch Ferry and Michael Knudsen. Ferry it was who put in the attack. And it looks like they've gone clear now behind. It looks like those numbers are much lower. The UAE clan team lacking a little bit of cohesion. They're normally the ones who are to be found at the front, closing it down. At the moment, I think just missing a little bit of firepower, missing a little bit of leadership. And at the moment, they need to get that back together again. But they have got disruptors in there. Campbell Pithrey's not going to do any work. Why would he? His teammate is up there. He's not going to put anything in. Vinks are going to do the same. They're just going to take that free ride, and that's going to be nagging in the minds of the riders in that chasing group. Leaders on your left, chasers on the right. Again, splits opening up in this group. And it looks to me like Campbell Pithrey just getting taken off the back of that group, maybe just following the wrong wheels there. You've got to be really attentive when you're trying to be a disruptor, because people don't like it. So what they'll try and do, just like in the road racing, just like you see on the track, they'll try and drop you off. So you'll be sat on the wheel, they'll a little gap going, a little bit more, and before you know it, all of a sudden you've got to sprint across a gap to get back into the group, expend energy as the riders in the other teams that really make you work hard. And that is real tough stuff. But that is what racing is all about, and that is why esports is great. We can see that in action Whilst watching the leaders on the left-hand side of the screen as well, our two leaders, Ferry and Knudsen, continue to kick onwards behind the chase. Now looks like it's starting to pick up pace. We're on a little bit of a downhill here at 3.5k. 3.5%, and then we're doing 50 kph. Our leaders here 40 kph, 42 kph at the moment, and currently total meters climbed on this sector 144 meters so far, and that means we've got about 23 meters left before they move into the mountain stage. In total, the segment 167 before we hit the 35.6 marker. Currently on the way through segment number 6, our two leaders. Mitch Ferry, our long-time leader, joined by Knudsen and Vink. Vink unable to stay with the pace, drop back in to the chasing group, which is where he is at the moment. The chasing group looking to close that gap down. It is still only a matter of hundreds of meters rather than kilometers between the two groups, despite that gap being well over 40 seconds. And you can see Ferry and Knudsen at the moment at 27.8k, 27.2. And the chasers coming. It's about 500 meters or so, 600 meters between these two groups out on the roads of MyWhoosh. And at the moment, that is the pattern that was set fairly early on in this stage, and it's the pattern that is continuing to stick as our riders come in towards these right-hand turns now. So as the view of the riders in front disappearing, 48 seconds, still that gap. The chase behind not paying any kind of dividends. In fact, the people who are going to be cashing in are going to be Ferry and Knudsen. And with every pedal stroke that goes by at the moment, they seem to really be able to push on. You see those numbers are bigger. Look at the watts, 388, 394 on the left of your screen. The riders behind, they're not settling into a rhythm. They're constantly getting bounced about around the group. Ferry and Knudsen, great two up here between these two. They're not teammates. They might as well be at the moment because they've got a common goal to stay clear. Michael Knudsen riding for the Danish Pavlova squad. Always one of our regular riders. Very, very strong. Will he be able to hold it on the hills? Mitch Ferry riding it for the Yorkshire Pudding Express. Normally goes on the attack, and a bit like you'd see in a major tour, is today the day where those attacks pay off, where the breakaway gets its day. And the group behind don't get the calculation right. They don't close that gap down. Ferry and Knudsen now at 52 seconds back to the group behind. We're just going to let the time clocks stabilize out. I think it's going to be 58 to 59 seconds, I think, at the moment for the group behind who are chasing. So it looks like they're about to hit that minute marker. If we were out on the road, we'd start to see the neutral service come in, and we see the commissaire cars jumping in between in this gap as they approach that minute marker. So here we go, Knudsen and Co coming up to the 30-kilometer marker. When they hit that 30k, we're going to hit the King of the Desert time check. So about 600 meters time, they're going to hit that checkpoint. This is what's going to give us a good indicator of who is moving fastest. It should show that Knudsen and Ferry are the fastest riders, unless Simmons and Co, the chasing bunch of riders you see on the right-hand side of your screen, start to pick up their pace at the end of the segment. And if they do that, they might then start to pull a little bit of time back. But at the moment, the gap going out, our two leaders accelerating, and the two groups are well and truly spread out. Really interesting that the breakaway is sticking at the moment, and it's a breakaway of two riders. The checkpoint is in sight. 200 meters to go, less than 200 meters now to the line. That's going to tick to 100 meters. Here we go, very shortly. So this will be the first of our times coming through. The time to beat will be set by Ferry and Knudsen. So through they go. These are our two leaders. And they go through in a 14.03. So a 14.03 for Mitch Ferry, 0.26 second back. It was Knudsen's time through there. Essentially just over 14 minutes 3 seconds for that segment. What will the time of the chasing group be? Because these riders have to start pushing big style here. If they don't, the battle will be for third place. It's not going to be for first or second because the work that's being put in at the front is phenomenal, and our two leaders are stretching the gap out. That is desperate at the moment. You can just see Williams out the saddle here. He's pushing on, but we're not seeing those same kind of numbers consistently coming out of this whole group, and that is what is going to be their downfall if they're not careful. So at the moment, as the clock ticks on, 43 minutes of racing done. We're coming up to 30k. We've got 15 kilometers still to go. We've got most of the climbing still to come. The last 9k, we've got nearly 750 meters of climbing. And look at that, Ferry and Knudsen have the fastest time. And over those 10 kilometers, Simmons, Van Eest, Williams and co have given away 45 to 50 seconds. That is huge. Absolutely huge, and that is why we're seeing Ferry and Knudsen continue to push onwards. They really have set the pace here, and you can see the Belgian Waffle squad with Simmons and Van Eest are really starting to try and push up, trying to close the gap down. They're not in the running for the team though, because they don't have a third team counter, and that means the UAE clan team should be in the mix. But Danish Pavlova have strength in depth. Can they be the riders who are going to take this on? Michael Vink will be critical for them, along with Campbell Pithry. They're right up in the mix, but at the moment, nobody able to touch our two leaders, Mitch Ferry and Michael Knudsen. Yorkshire Pudding Express and Danish Pavlova ahead of the Belgian Waffles squad of Simmons and Van Eest. It's Williams, Paradians, Gunnar Gjerdal. It's then going to be Said Safrazadeh, Yusuf Mirza, and Campbell Pithry of the Pavlova squad rounding out the top 10. Sounding like a cookery show if we're not careful here with all the talk of food. We only need a bit of cheese on toast and we'd be laughing here. And it looks like at the moment the team continue to push on. Maybe some good falafels. That's maybe what we need. We'll see these riders continue to push in. Now we've gone through the first 6 segments, and that means we are on the far side of 30k. The 7th segment straddles the border between the desert and the mountain. It comes in at 33 kilometers of the boundary into the mountains at 35.6k, which means that the final segment will finish 2k shy of our race finish, which is at 45k, as you can see from the graphics. Though 167 meters to 35.5k, 737 in the rest on that final climb, and it's going to be telling now. Knudsen and Ferry with the gap. It's been up to nearly a minute. Will that gap start to come down, or will it hover at the minute? I think it's going to be on the climb that's going to make a difference. The question will be, has Knudsen and Ferry gone too hard? Have they expended too much energy? To use that Will Hackney's commentary phrase, have they burnt too many matches on the long stretch into the mountains? Have any of the teams been saving anything? Well, the riders who should have been doing the least work in that chase group should be the teammates of Ferry and Knudsen. They should be taking it easy. They should be sat behind the wheels, just marking out any moves. Looks like Mirza and Williams at the moment just in pursuit. They're just trying to stretch the gap out. And Mirza just continues to push on here. Just seeing Yusuf Mirza on the right-hand side of your screen. He's got Williams on his heels. Williams has been pushing for every single sprint segment. Those gaps really have opened up. They are the head of what is left of the chasing bunch. You just see Campbell Pithry moving up on to the shoulders there. The bald-headed Pithry just coming through. Don't forget, of course, these avatars don't have to actually look like our riders in real life. Some people's are scarily accurate, and you can recognize people when you're lucky enough to meet them in real life. You go, you are, and it is, you are Joe or Joanna Blogs, because you look just like your avatar, and there's other people's avatars look nothing like them. Mine's got some hair for a start. Maybe I might have to get a hairstyle like Jason Osborne's. I wish. It's probably just follicle jealousy I've got there, that's for sure. Maybe it just uses the right shampoo. So here on Sunday Race Club, here on MyWhoosh, we are now approaching the last critical phase of the race. Michael Knudsen, Mitch Ferry leading this race out. The breakaway of Ferry really critical in the action in the early part of the race. Multiple attacks going with Ferry sticking. Knudsen joined him with Michael Vink. Vink couldn't hold the pace of Ferry and Knudsen, but Ferry and Knudsen at the moment, as we go through that 34k marker, is the pace of these two that really has put everybody else in trouble. And by everybody else, we mean everybody else, because nobody has been able to stick with them. They have pushed. They can see the mountains coming up in the distance. They know once they hit that 35.6 marker, they're going to be in to the mountains. We essentially take a right-hand turn, and the gradient goes up. It's a very steppy climb coming up for our riders. We'll explain that probably a little bit more in detail and what that means for the riders as they hit that climb. But our two leaders are going to be on there. They've been setting a steady pace, and this, of course, really does take its toll on the riders. You just see Hitchin Sabri at the moment, just been watching him through the race, just continues to push. He's got a group in front. He needs to get in with them. Currently sitting in 45th position. So Hitchin right in the middle of the pack, about halfway down this race field. Now the saddle continuing to kick onwards here, and he's been yo-yoing in and out of the groups. He needs to get in behind, try and make the most of this, because once we get onto the climb, it's going to make a very little difference whether you're with a group or not on the steep sections. But if you have some shelter, some assistance on the flatter sections, that will make a huge difference, and it will make life easier, because you're able to shelter, you're able to take essentially free speed off any of the downhill sections. You're able to maximize that speed by getting the shelter, by not having to push against the wind on your own. So our two leaders, left hand side of your screen, 35.2. The nose is going to be jangling. They know about 400 meters time. They're going to turn into the mountain section. They're going to be in it proper. The segment that they're on, the King of the Mountains segment, it's going to finish. You can just see that road starting to open up in front of the riders. You can just see it the right hand side here on the screen as it weaves its way up. The initial section here is brutal. It's absolutely horrible. Speaking to somebody who's ridden it, not in the world of road and sound, but in the pleasure of the studio pain cave. Well, guess what? It is an absolute leg killer, because you take this right hand turn, watch the right hand top right hand side of your screen. Already we're at 3%. It's going to continue to kick upwards here, and this is where we see whether it's going to be Ferry or Knudsen to break clear. Will they try and go solo? Will they try and stay together a little bit longer? At the moment, it is Ferry from Knudsen, and currently at 4%, going up to 6% now. Up into 7, 8. It's going to continue. It's now got into the red zone. We're up into that 9.7, 9.9, 10 point. When it continues to kick, it will then level out again. When it levels, there's a little bit of a chance for recovery. And that is where your legs tend to turn to jelly, because as you go over the top, the pressure on the bike will ease. The pressure on that chain will ease. But it means that it's very hard to get into a really smooth rhythm. So the leaders already outside, round those bends and over the top. On the right-hand side of your screen, this is the chasing group, or what is left of that chasing group. So the group on the way through. 10 riders chasing our two leaders. Still 10 riders that came in to the last segment. And again, you can just see it's a big pack on the chase of Knudsen, on the chase of Ferry. However, this is where we expect it to break up. Knudsen and Ferry, by the look of it, going together well. This is the initial kick. We've done the left turn. We're now on this right-hand sweep. And remember, we saw Knudsen and Ferry go. Now an attack goes over the top. Williams has gone hard here. It looks like he's trying to push the pace up at the front, but a response instantly from Saeed Safrazad and Vink here. So Vink on the right-hand side, Williams on the left-hand side of your screen. And now Saeed Safrazad goes to the front. The red hair, the white UAE team cap on the head of the UAE clan rider. Yusuf Mercer's gone right up there. Stefan Van is also doing the same here. And they're still queuing up to have a pop. I think we're losing one or two riders off the back of that group. Our leaders, no such problems. They're well on the way up this ascent, now at 36.6 kilometers. Knudsen, 170 beats per minute. Ferry, 158. A reasonably substantial difference between the two heart rates of these riders. Look at those revs. They're at 67. They're really working hard here. Knudsen, though, with a slightly higher cadence. He's just keeping those revs nice and high. And I always say, if your legs hurt, then you're pushing too hard. You're not using your lungs efficiently. If your lungs are hurting, and your legs are good, well, you're not pushing hard enough on the pedals. If you're both hurting, you're going about right, because that's what you need. And the moment the man who's putting some hurt on everyone else, it is Yusuf Mirza. He's got the gap here on Williams. It's only a few seconds. Looks like Fink and Van Elst are able to just about stay in touch. Pithry, though, has been distanced, and that's going to be telling for the team competition, because as Pithry gets distanced, it is going to be a real battle between the UAE clan team. Remember, they've got Mercer, they've got Safrastad, they've got Popovic in this leading group, and the Pavlova squad with Knudsen right up at the front, then Vink and Pithry, and it will go down to who is going to finish highest. The top three scorers for each team are going to be key as Michael Knudsen pushes on here. Now he's starting to open a gap here on Mitch Ferry. It's only a couple of seconds, but it could be enough. Meanwhile, Yusuf Mirza, this man is climbing like Marco Pantani at his absolute best. He's flying here. Now Ferry goes back over the top of Knudsen, but Mirza is on the chase. He's going to try and close this down. He's out of the saddle with a really high revs. Look at this. Mercer's at 95 revs per minute on this climb. It's really smooth cadence. He's absolutely ticking along here. He's revving his way up and down, and that's what we want to see. We want to see that high revs. Now he goes up the steep part, 12.8, 13%, 13.2. That's absolutely eye-watering gradient here on MyWhoosh here. Those trainers are going to be slowing the riders down. The strain on the bike, on the turbo, is going to be telling. And this is where it pays to be light, to not be carrying excess kilos, because this is where you're then able to ascend. And this is where it's going to be absolutely critical to make the most of your strengths if you are a climber. On these steep sections, really push on, really start to open up the gap. And you can see in the distance, Mirza is leaving everybody behind. He's going to be closing down on Knudsen and Ferry. So Knudsen leading the race, Ferry right on his heels. Mirza trying to bridge across from what was a group of 12 who entered, 10 riders of the leading 12 who entered the climb together. We have two leaders on the front, 10 chasers. Of those 10 chasers, Mercer is the rider who broke clear earliest. He has gone clear of Williams, Popovic, and Safrastad in that group. The nearest chasers to Mercer about 15 seconds down behind them. We're starting to run in towards the minute markers as the riders continue further back. They're going to continue to push, but once we hit these steep slopes, 13%, it's okay if you've got the power to sprint over them if you're a bigger rider, but at the moment, Knudsen and Ferry are still continuing to make light work. But watch the numbers. Yusuf Mirza is sitting consistently at 6 to 7 watts per kilo. That is critical on this climb. Knudsen and Ferry are sitting between 5 and about 6.5. Not much difference, but it is enough, and it could be the difference between Mercer getting in touch and then going past, and Knudsen and Ferry staying clear. To go into the final few hundred meters, yeah, that's the time to do some playing about if you're Mitch Ferry or Michael Knudsen to look to take the win. But Mercer has to close this gap down. It is coming down. He's continuing to push. He's got higher watts per kilo. He's climbing better. However, time will run out for him if he's not careful, but we've still got a way to go. We've got about 6.4k for our leaders at the moment. As we go on to the next section, the next step on this climb, the riser of the staircase, very, very tough indeed. So the chase is on, and you can see the same balloon in shot, the same observatory in shot. You've got the same radio tower in shot behind Mitch Ferry and Michael Knudsen. Yusuf Mirza is coming. He's on the road below them. I can just about pick him out on the big screens that we use for commentary here at MyWhoosh, here in the Full Speed Event Studios. But it looks to me like Mirza is on his way. It's now consistently showing as about the 27 to 30 second mark, and that means he's almost half the time that the leaders had as they came into this climb. We hit this climb at 30, just under 36k on the clock. We're now at just under 39, in fact, hitting 39 kilometers on the clock. And the gap has come down. The time between our leaders and the chase behind has come down, and it's Yusuf Mirza who is coming across. And I'm sure the riders from the UAE clan team who are not in that leading group, who've got the breath to cheer him on, are going to be really encouraging Yusuf as he continues to push it. Knudsen and Ferry leading, Yusuf Mirza in third place, Popovic in fourth. And then it is going to be Saeed Safrazad in fifth place. So at the moment, the UAE clan team have third, fourth, and fifth. They'll want to take that win. They didn't get the individual win last week. They're going to be looking to do that. They were had their party spoiled by Ollie Jones, but they did take that team win. It looks like they may well be taking that team win this time around if those positions stay the same. However, it relies on nobody blowing up, and the man at the moment who is really burning his fuse, it is Yusuf Mirza. He's going through those tunnels. The leaders have just come out of the end of the tunnel. You can see that difference on your screens at the moment. The gap is continuing to come down between them. We're now at 20 seconds, so it's a third of the time between our two leaders and the chasers behind. And Knudsen and Ferry know that the express train is on its way. Yusuf Mirza is on his way, but they're going to get a little bit of respite, a little bit of advantage of having two riders as we go onto this level tread, onto this level section. So two leaders, Michael Knudsen, Mitch Ferry, trying to hold off chaser behind Yusuf Mirza. Three teams are represented up here. Yorkshire Pudding Express and Danish Pavlova in the front. The chase behind from Mirza is coming, and that chase by the UAE clan team rider is the lead rider of what is going to be the leading team at the moment. And the UAE clan team are not as dominant this time around, as they've got a couple of really strong riders MIA at the moment. But it certainly looks to me like Yusuf Mirza is going to be carrying home some honours for them. Will he be able to take individual honours as well? He's on this steep section on the next riser here. You can just see, look at those revs, 91 revs per minute. He's kicking out 6.8 watts per kilo, 7.5. And he's consistently doing that on all of these steep slopes. So Yusuf Mirza on it right here. This is brilliant to watch. You can just see. Always love it when somebody's trying to come across. He couldn't go with them on the flatlines. Now he can see them. Here we go. They're on the screens. You can just see left-hand side, top left-hand side of that screen. The two leaders are in front. They are going to try and hold him off as long as possible and make him work, but they are at 40k of a 45k route. And the remaining 5k are going to play to the strength, surely, of Yusuf and Mirza. At what point do Knudsen and Ferry hit the panic alarms and really start to ride, or do they wait and see what Mirza's got left? He's burning a lot of energy. He's using a lot of strength to get across here. Those revs are high, but he's got to keep on pushing. Knudsen and Ferry, I think, just picking up that pace a little bit. They're making him work for every single second, every meter of that gap that he's closing down. All right, it's down, and now we're sitting between 10 and 15 seconds as it yo-yos in and out with the increase and decrease in the gradients here at MyWhoosh up onto this cloverleaf section that brings us higher and higher into the mountains here on MyWhoosh. And at the moment, you can see Knudsen as well as Ferry are under pressure. The man putting them under that pressure is Yusuf and Mirza, who has gone clear behind us. Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic riding together to keep that gap to a minimum. However, it is going to be a big ask for them to come back up to the what is going to be potentially three leaders as we go into the finish. I think the question is not so much is Mirza going to get there, but what is he going to do when he does get to them? Is he going to rest? Is he going to recover and then kick? Or is he just going to try and blast straight past them? Well, Mitch Ferry and Michael Knudsen just starting to fracture a little bit here. The two riders are not getting any advantage of having some draft here. Ferry just maybe just easing up a little bit there, just taking a little bit of a breath to recover. They're going to be priming themselves, ready to go. If Mercer goes for the straight over the top option, here he comes. This is going to be a critical moment when he catches them. If it's on the flat, the advantage is with the two riders together. If it is on the steep section, you would suggest that it would be Yusuf Mirza who has the advantage. He's going to hit them at about 1%, 1.5% here. He comes in, and interestingly, Mirza drops to 3.3 watts per kilo here. Now, that's a real indicator that he is just jumping in and maybe not going quite as hard. Now, if you've got some strength, if you are Knudsen and Ferry, you have the option that you could really start to rip it up. But it looks to me like Yusuf Mirza took a breath. That was only a very quick recovery. He's got at 6.9 watts per kilos again. And this is another attack now. Ferry and Knudsen have to answer this. They've got to come at him. The time is running out. They won't be able to close him down if they let him go too far. Knudsen is very responsive. He's leading the charge onto the wheel of Mirza. Mirza now has got on his heels. Michael Knudsen goes up on his shoulder and goes, you think you're coming past me that easy? It's not going to happen. But again, Mirza kicks. Ferry playing it smart here. He is in contact. You can't quite see him on streets. Now you do. So three riders are together as they come into the tunnels here. 42k on the clock, 3k to go here on qualifier number 2 of the Sunday Race Club here on MyWhoosh YouTube channel. We are bringing you all of the action all the way through every month into those finals. Yusuf Mirza goes up, leading them into the finale, into these final few kilometers. And Mirza really does have to push here. The answer has come from Ferry and Knudsen. They're not afraid of seeing Mirza come up on them, but they've got to be able to answer each and every attack as he goes over the top. He's at 7 watts per kilo again. As it levels back out again, he needs to be careful where he's expending this energy. Ferry and Knudsen look like they have the answers when the attacks are coming in at 6, maybe 7 watts per kilo. They can pull that back. This means Mirza's got to think about this. He's got to choose when to go. He can't just try and grind them down because I don't think he's going to break clear. He has to use his strengths here. And we've seen that going at high revs on steep slopes. This is why it pays to ride regularly on the MyWhoosh platform, to race regularly, whether that's on the Tune-Up Tuesdays coming out all the way through June, or whether it is on the sections where we're on a Sunday Race Club qualifier, so that you know the course, you know how it rides, you know where to put your energy, you know where those attacking points are, where those stabilization points are, where you can just get a little bit of recovery, the points at which you can maybe just get that rest. It really is absolutely critical. So the guys need to make sure they get this absolutely dialed. And it's got to be really smooth here as they come up this slope, as they come into the checkpoint. The three riders are together. The fastest time has got to be Mirza's here as he comes through. You can see the way he's closed down. He has closed down 1 minute and 3. He's with them now. With Knudsen and Ferry, he closed 1 minute and 3 in 10 kilometers. And that is amazing riding. That is absolutely brilliant to see. And that shows you just how quick Mirza was going. 377 watts, and look at those watts per kilo. 6.3 watts per kilo to Knudsen's 5.3 and the 4.9 from Mitch Ferry. And it means 3 teams, now top 3 riders. UAE Clan Team, the Danish Pavlova squad, and the Yorkshire Pudding Express with Yusuf Mirza, Michael Knudsen, and Mitch Ferry, respectively. 3 riders into the last 1,500 meters of this course. Mirza, Ferry, and Knudsen. So we've got 3 riders, all in gold jerseys, because of course they are in those yellow jerseys of category 1 riders. Behind, well, Saeed Safrased and Pablo Popovic are leading the chase, about 12 seconds on Thomas Williams, 31 seconds on Michael Vink. And then it is over 3 minutes to Simmons, Van Eerst, and Paradis. And it doesn't mean they are in what it should be the position to back up the ride by Mirza to take the team win. but the team will want to take that individual win as well. Mercer's shown he's got the strength, he's got the speed. Here he goes again. 6 watts per kilo, just about as he comes up, eases off very quickly. So Mercer with the black socks, white helmet. Mitch Ferry goes over the top. Ferry with the white socks, white helmet just up at the front of the riders here. As we look down, it looks to me like Knudsen, the white bike and the white helmet rather than the black bike, and the helmet just coming up alongside. You can just see both riders continue to push, just start feeling out to see who has got some strength. There's a lot of little kicks going on here. We're at 800 meters to go. They know that they need to save something for that final sprint. Mercer's shown he's got some very high watts per kilo, but can he put out the outright power that he's going to need to take this? I think he needs to go quickly because otherwise he's going to be in danger. Just seeing Knudsen and Ferry starting to wind it up. So Knudsen with those long white socks goes over. Ferry with the blue socks goes. Now Mercer comes. None of these riders breaking clear. Ferry goes into second place as Knudsen pushes on. Now Ferry goes over the top with Mercer. Nothing to choose between these three riders. The time is ticking. 500 meters left to close this out. 45 kilometers of racing. It's going to be just under 1,000 meters climbing done. It's beyond the summit end to the line, and Knudsen has gone early. Now Mercer's coming. Knudsen's holding 12 watts per kilo. Mercer's answering it with 12.1. Mercer's coming. Ferry is out of this, so Ferry is blown. Ferry is well and truly sunk here as Knudsen pushes. Mercer's trying to get back to him, but Michael Knudsen is going to take victory. He goes in over the line first here, so it is a Michael Knudsen who takes a victory here today. Knudsen bringing it home. It's a second place for Yusuf Mercer of the UAE clan team, and it's a third place for Mitch Ferry. So the Danish Pavlova squad finishing off what has been a tasty race in style with the UAE clan team. Yusuf Mercer, the fastest climb, the fastest descent of the mountain, not enough to take that sprint from Knudsen. Mitch Ferry coming through in third place there, the Yorkshire Pudding Express. Well, I think Ferry had worked so hard putting in that initial attack that took them clear. He'd used a lot of energy at that point, and that means that there was not a lot left as they came into the finish. A little bit further back down the course, we saw Said Safrazad and Pablo Popovic together. Last we saw, it looks like Said has just got the gap here. So to see our riders turn around and come back down the other way, get some more points in the bag to get those levels complete here on MyWhoosh. So Pablo Popovic, Said Safrazad and Thomas Williams are going to be the riders coming in. Williams could spoil the party of a clean sweep of places coming through. I think he's going to be right between Said Safrazad and Pablo Popovic. He is. So Said Safrazad comes in fourth place. The NZ Pro team rider Thomas Williams in fifth. Sixth place is going to go to Pablo Popovic. And that means the UAE clan team will wrap up the team prize once again. Question will be who is going to come in second place as they come through. That's a ride by Yusuf Mercer on that King of the Mountains, where he took back 1 minute and 3 seconds. Absolutely phenomenal. Not enough to take the race win, but a great ride by him. Now, are we going to see another back to Michael Vink on his way in towards the line? So that's Danish Pavlova with 2 riders home. Are they going to take that second place team prize? I suspect they will. At the moment, they've got Knudsen and Vink in first and 7th place. And it is going to be down to what the NZ Bro team and the Yorkshire Pudding Express team can do. It's interesting to watch these riders coming up now. Oliver Simmons in a real private battle here with Stefan van Ace. They're going to come up and round. And this is where it pays to know what this turn is like as you come in to take this right-hand bend. So at the moment, Van Ace with the gap on Simmons, just trying to push that a little bit harder, just trying to open that gap, but trying to break clear here. This is the kick in. The 2 teammates, both Belgian waffles here. Well, they're going to come through. Who's going to have it with sugar and who's going to find it too sweet for their taste? It's going to be a kick. Oh, look at this. He's going to come right down to that final kick through. It's going to be Van Ace who gets it.
Well, the two teammates said no quarter given on the way through. They all wanted the crumbs of the cake through. They're going to come in ahead of Jasper Paradians. Paradians is going to come in to round out our top 10. Now, the Belgian Waffles doing a great job. They're not going to challenge on the team prize overall. Good ride there by Jasper as he comes in and through and really is making himself at home here on MyWhoosh. And good to see that the riders from Abus Lecole riding strongly. He's really has got in and through. So our top 10 riders in and home. Danish Pavlova leading them home, and Michael Knudsen just ahead of that amazing climb by UAE Clan team rider Yusuf Mirza, who led his team home to victory in the team competition. Yorkshire Pudding Express rider Mitch Ferry, the initial instigator of the attack, comes in third place, followed by Saeed Safrazad, Thomas Williams, Pablo Popovic, Michael Vink, Stefan Van Ace, Oliver Simmons, and Jasper Paradians. Don't forget, of course, you can catch up with all of the race results. Make sure you go on to MyWhoosh. Make sure you catch up with the women's race that is coming up very shortly indeed here on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. Make sure you give it a subscribe. Make sure you give us a follow on the Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram on MyWhoosh. Don't forget, you can always catch up with me, Matt Payne, out on Strava as well as on MyWhoosh, and of course on Facebook too. Great racing here today. Great to see as the battle all the way to the top. I'm looking forward to the women's race from me, Matt Payne, and everyone here at MyWhoosh. Thank you for watching. Ashufkum Alakir. Until next time.